Good evening. We'll go ahead and call tonight's board meeting to order. Renee, if you would show all board members present. And if you would join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, it really is not finished.
No,
All right. We need approval for tonight's agenda, and I do believe there are some requests to separate some items in the consent agenda.
motion to approve.
Hold on one second, Mr. Shatterly.
I'm moving on.
Madam President, I'd like to separate out classified recommendation for termination.
Okay. So we'll separate classified and certified. And on classified, then we'll make another separation of the termination recommendation for separate consideration.
Right.
And then Mr. Hall?
And also in the certified, I believe I'm correct,
Yes, sir.
I like to separate the extra duty.
For separate consideration?
Yes.
All right, we'll do that. Any further? So all in favor of approving tonight's agenda with those amendments?
Wait, I have another question. I'm sorry. On
Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Hall.
if that there's several things I like to vote for, but there's one I like to vote against. But
You can take that further if you would like to specify the position.
I like to pull the volunteer girls assistant at Charlestown Middle School.
Okay. So we'll separate that particular position under extra duty.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, gotcha. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda with those amendments?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Satterley,
You're
for
welcome.
your patience on that. Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Any questions or further discussion? All in favor? All right, that's 7-0. Thank you. We don't have any public comments this evening, do we, Renee? Okay. So we'll go ahead and take consent agenda items 1 through 4. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Pavey. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. White. Questions or discussion? All in favor? All right, that's 7-0 on items 1 through 4. And we'll go ahead and take certified personnel, all of the positions except for the volunteer girls assistant basketball coach grade 8. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Charles. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Teresa. Is there any questions or discussion? All in favor? All right, that's 7-0. And then we will take a separate vote on the certified extra duty assignment of the volunteer girls assistant basketball coach grade 8. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Satterley. Any questions or discussion? All right, all in favor of approval? And opposed? That's 6-1. All right, thank you. I think that went pretty smoothly. Next, we'll take the classified personnel report, and we'll take all items for consideration except for the recommendation for termination. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Pavey. Is there a second? Thank you, Mrs. Kraft. Any questions or discussion? All in favor? All right, that's 7-0. So then next we'll take the classified recommendation for termination. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Satterley. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Kraft. Any questions or discussion? All right, all in favor? And opposed? And abstentions? All right, so that's 5-0 and 2. Thank you all. All right, next we have gifts to buildings. Mr. Satterley.
I'll beat Renee to get it up there this time. Nancy's provided my chart, so. As always, we get a lot of gifts from the different organizations in the district to our schools, and once again, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them, if I can count right. So, we just like to thank everybody, and about every month, Clark County Jail's on there, so whatever Danny's doing over there, we appreciate it. So I'll make a motion to accept.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. White. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor of accepting the gifts to buildings? All right, that's 7-0. Thank you. Next, we'll move into our action items. We have a CPF and general fund appropriation transfer.
Yes, you have in front of you a resolution authorizing the appropriation transfers for 2013 in capital projects and general fund budget. This is something we do a couple times a year to allow the schools to move money within their particular line item accounts, so it's just normal operating procedure.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. White. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Satterley. Any questions or discussion? All right, all in favor? All right, that's 7-0. Obsolete equipment.
You have in your possession a list of obsolete equipment that's currently being stored at the old Court and Porter location, and we will be adding more equipment to it. We'd like to have a auction so we can dispose of this good junk, and it usually costs us probably more than what it's actually worth, but it's something that we can give back to the public if they want to buy something from their school or whatever. So we're asking permission to declare these as being obsolete and then to hold an auction.
All right, is there a motion?
Motion to
Thank you,
approve.
Mrs. Kraft. Is there a
Second.
second, Mr.
I'll second.
Pavey? Thank you. Questions or discussion?
We're not putting Tom in charge of PR for it, that's for sure.
It's
Yeah.
good junk.
Yeah, it's junk.
No, not the public junk.
Good point.
Are there any computers?
Yes, there's a couple in there.
Sorry?
There's a couple on there.
Oh, I just thought if there were a lot.
No, I just saw like some iPads, and I have to make sure that
Okay.
the hard drives will be cleaned before we actually put them in there.
Okay.
Now, in the past, at other schools, districts where I was at, we would store everything until the auction, and then I found out that we had a two-legged chair. Like, who's going to buy a two-legged chair? Break the other leg and throw it in the dumpster. I will go out there and see how many two-legged chairs we have. Hopefully, we don't have any. So.
You're no fun.
Any further? All in favor? All right, that's 7-0. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then we have revisions to policy 3440, and this is a first reading, so it does not require our action.
Correct. Currently, our board policy states that if we have any fixed assets over $100, we have to identify it and keep tabs of it, first aid boards of accounts. That $100 is way low. I mean, we're putting everything in there. Our fixed asset accounting manual is like that thick with all the printouts that we have. What we're asking to do is to raise it to $5,000. That will eliminate a lot of the little things. But we also created a new section called IT equipment, and we lowered that down to $250 to pick up all the Chromebooks. Even though IT already does an inventory of all their stuff, I just want to make sure we raise the regular equipment, assets like desks, chairs, tables that really don't need to be on there, raise it to $5,000, look at the important stuff that could be walking out of here, and then creating a new policy for IT equipment and lowering that to $250. And that's what we're asking to do.
All right. So, Board, if you have any questions or ideas or concerns, make sure that you get with Dr. Dykle before he brings that back for a second reading. All right?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have a travel reimbursement revision, and again, it's first reading.
Good evening, that's correct. We do have the first reading for travel reimbursement, and the policy has been provided to you. What we're looking at doing with the travel reimbursement policy is increasing the expenses for in the provision on page 2 for meals, to increase it from $40 a day to $75 a day. and then make an adjustment for a provision for meals, like if you're gone the whole day and you get back past 9 p.m. to have a dinner reimbursement. That's rarely used, but from $25 to $45, we're found that, you know, going out for, if you have to go for 3 meals a day, that the $40 was pushing the limit pretty significantly. And then we also, one of the other keys changes was the use of a credit card or a purchasing card. And originally it said that we could only use those for lodging, registration, airfare, or fuel for the corporation vehicle, and that you couldn't pay for meals using the purchasing card. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But the change would allow for the superintendent of schools or other cabinet level administrators to, when they are paying for a group of attendees, provided that the cost charged does not exceed the per diem for the meal of each attendee. That way, by example, if the superintendent were to take all of you during a conference out for lunch, he could pick up and pay for everyone's meal. Then we'll make sure that it's broken down and doesn't exceed the limit. And the same way with cabinet level administrators, because a lot of times they do go in groups for these events. And then certainly an itemized bill, no alcohol can be reimbursed. So those are the changes in the policy, if you all want to just take a look at them, and it'll be presented for second reading in October. Unless you have any questions.
I can tell you from personal experience that $45 a day is not much when you're at a conference. So it goes pretty quickly. So
Okay.
if you have any questions or concerns, make sure and let Sandy know before second reading.
Yeah, it seems like that's an awful big jump. We're almost doubling the amount of meals, going from 40 to 75, and we're going from 25 to 45. And I could see an increase, but not. It's almost double.
Yeah, we one of the things that we tried to look at is what would the average cost be for a breakfast, lunch, in a dinner in a Indianapolis or Louisville or whatnot, and so we were trying to come up with a price, a per diem amount. So it's $75 per day for all meals. And so I agree that, but the amount hasn't been changed for a long period of time. So it gives some flexibility, and we thought it was reasonable based upon.
Most conferences that I've been to, it seems like breakfast is included, you know, coffee and something like that there. And then if you attend the conference, lunch is included, or dinner. And so it's really one meal a day. And so we're going from 40 to 75 for one meal.
You have to pay for the lunches. And then they're I never eat the conference lunches because they're like $30 for a lunch. So I don't usually buy those. I go out and grab something else quick. But it's easy. It's easy to go, you know. And then if we all have dinner together, like we do sometimes, it's a big jump, but I think it's reasonable.
When you say it's a per diem, it's with receipt. I
Right.
mean, if I choose,
Correct.
Yeah, you don't
then
just
I
get
have
that
breakfast
money.
or lunch,
Right.
but I want to spend $40 on my dinner,
Right.
then that's okay.
Right.
Yep. You can
have
choose.
But I don't get $75.
No.
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 Not unless
Correct.
you spent $75.
Okay.
It's an actual reimbursement. You just, if
Right.
you exceed the $75, then the
The rest of
excess
it's on-
amount's on you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then the next item that we have is the first reading on the changes to the anti-harassment bullying policy. As you all know, the state of Indiana has produced a new definition for bullying, and our definition in our policy really was very close, but we wanted to be in compliance with the state's recommendations, so we're making revisions to our policies for employees, both certified and classified, for our students, and also visitors that come onto our property, about the rules and regulations of what can and cannot be tolerated as far as harassment and bullying. And so you'll see in highlighted yellow the additions to the policy. Strike-throughs are the changes to the policy. We are gonna, we've changed the word employee, volunteer, and student to individual or individuals so that one policy takes care of all the different classifications of people that we deal with. One of the biggest changes in the policy is training is now required for teachers, staff, students, and we do have procedures and protocols in place for the training of our students. I think that's going to occur right after fall break, right after our second week of our fall break, so that we will be in compliance with the recommendations of the state. So you all can review this. If you have questions, most of this language that's included just came straight out of the recommendations from the State Department of Education for the changes. But if you do see something that you'd like a clarification on, just give me a call. We'll present it in October.
Thank you, Sandy. Next, we have 2014 renewal for Humana Health and voluntary dental.
Right, we're excited about this. We're going to work on getting the health insurance renewed, as well as the voluntary dental insurance program. We will bring to you next month the voluntary life and the AD&D policies for renewal. That'll be at the first meeting in October. But this is, as you know, we are self-insured for our medical insurance. We have 3 plans: the $300, $600 deductible PPO, the $1,000, $2,000 deductible PPO, and the $1,500, $3,000 high deductible health plan with an optional health savings plan. Because we had a good claims experience in 2013, the proposed increase was minimal. I think it was right around $100,000. So we have elected to not increase the health insurance premiums for either Greater Clark or our staff members this year. Because we're self-funded, we pay our claims as they occur. If something happens and we do run into that $100,000, it'll come out of our self-insurance fund that we have. But we don't expect that we will. We think we're all going to be a nice, healthy group, and we think with the opening of our clinics, that'll keep down costs too. So at this time, we're going to recommend approval of the health insurance as presented, and also the voluntary dental increase. It does go up by 5.5%, but that includes a 2-year rate guarantee on that coverage. That's not something that Greater Clark pays for. That's a voluntary plan that the employees have. But from what we understand, most of our employees do use this service and appreciate having the opportunity for the voluntary dental. So based on that information, unless you have questions, we recommend the renewal for Humana Health and voluntary dental insurance.
Is there a motion? Thank you, Mrs. Kraft. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Questions? Discussion? All right, all in favor? And that's 7-0. And I just quickly want to thank you, Cindy Orem from Humana and Dana Cooper from Niece Lukens for coming tonight and being here in case we had questions. Thank you.
Right. And we also appreciate the insurance committee that we have. It's made up of administrative team and also our teachers. And there's some representatives from that team here this evening. If you all will raise your hands, I would appreciate it. We've got Nick back there. But and also Frank certainly does oversight as the president. We appreciate their participation with us in this insurance process. Thank you very much.
Yeah, because it takes a lot of time sometimes, and no extra stipends. It's voluntary. We appreciate you. All right, next item is Covert-Hawkins agreement for facilities assessment.
Board, if you remember last board meeting, I asked you to approve a recommendation for Covert-Hawkins to conduct a comprehensive facilities study. We have since received the agreement from Covert-Hawkins. It's been reviewed by Ms. Lewis, and wanted to bring that to you this evening for your approval. So tonight we're asking that you approve the contract with Covert-Hawkins to conduct a comprehensive facilities study.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Pavey. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. White. Questions? Discussion?
With this study also, maybe, is it time to redistrict board member areas, or is that part of this as well? Like with the growth, is
They're generally not with a facility study like this. It doesn't usually entail board member districts, but that is something that could always be looked at in the future if that's something the board would want to do. I guess the key factor will be to look at the demographic study and to see, as you know, what may transpire over the next 5, 10, 15 years relative to population. We've had a population movement in our district from the south to the north slightly over the past several years. That may continue with the bridge being built. But so it is something that we could revisit if the population does start to move in that northerly direction in our district.
Any other questions or discussion? I have one question, and I apologize if it's in the contract, I didn't see it. Do we have a timeline for when this is expected to be completed?
They gave us an indication that the earliest it would be completed would be 4 weeks, but probably no longer than 8 weeks. So we think a 2-month time frame is reasonable, and would expect it to be completed by that time.
Any further? All in favor? And that's 7-0. Thank you. Next we have Title I contracts.
Board, as you know, as a Title I school system, we are obligated to also provide Title I funding for non-public schools in our area. And so tonight we bring to you a recommendation to approve to contract with teachers at Sacred Heart and Our Lady of Providence schools at the rate of $30 per hour for this school year to provide after-school tutoring for eligible Title I students. Total hours for after-school tutoring will not exceed 163. So this is something that Amy Schellenberg, who you know is our Title I coordinator, has worked with these institutions and have come up with this way to properly expend the funds that are appropriate for each of those schools.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. White. Is there a second?
second?
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Questions? Discussion? All right, all in favor? That's 7-0. Thank you. Last is a Memorandum of Understanding for Race to the Top grant.
Board, several weeks ago, Phil Partenheimer from the Wilson Education Center contacted me, and he was pretty excited about the possibility of applying for a Race to the Top grant that could bring in millions of dollars, not only to our school corporation, but to other school corporations in our area. And so what this grant is looking to do is provide and enhance preschool opportunities for students, as well as after-school tutoring opportunities for individuals and for students. We also know that the intercession that we are providing under our balanced calendar, these funds could be used to help us with intercession, which would help from that funding perspective. And so I met with Mr. Pavey, and he was kind enough last week. They needed to get an assurance from us as a school corporation that we would be interested in joining this consortium. And so Mr. Pavey was kind enough to sign the memorandum of understanding, and also Mayor Moore, City of Jeffersonville, had to supply, because this is Race to the Top is looking at certain districts around the country that have a certain demographic, and Jeffersonville meets that criteria. And so Mayor Moore also had to write a letter of support, and so that was all done last Friday and submitted to Mr. Partenheimer. But tonight I would like for you to confirm the fact that you are authorizing us to move forward on this Race to the Top grant. Now, we are not a member of the Wilson Education Center currently. What would be part of this arrangement is that if we do receive the grant, then we would join Wilson Education Center, but there's no obligation to join if we do not receive the grant.
Well, if we receive the grant, the membership will have been paid for. So.
Absolutely.
Okay. As a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Teresa. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tony. Any questions or discussion?
I think this is a great move. Good decision.
Thank you.
Any further? All in favor? All right, that's 7-0. And then, Board, we're going to take just a quick half a second. We'd like to recognize somebody that we approved tonight who's in the audience.
Yes, thank you, Board. Earlier this evening, you had the opportunity to approve the new girls basketball coach at Charlestown High School, Mike Pritchard. Would you please stand? Mike Pritchard is currently a teacher at Jeffersonville High School in the special ed area. He has Charlestown roots and was going to be assisting the Jeffersonville High School basketball program, but interviewed and did a great job, and we feel very excited about him coming on board and taking over the Charlestown High School girls program, not just the varsity program, the girls program. So Michael, congratulations, and we wish you all the best.
All right. Next we will move to board reports and requests. Mr. Hall, do you have anything?
No, ma'am.
All right. Teresa, do you have anything?
No, ma'am.
Jerry?
No, ma'am.
Mrs. Kraft?
Yes, I do. I would like to make it a policy that all 5th grade students in the Greater Clark County school system be required to learn the words to and how to sing our national anthem. And I need a second.
Well, I would second that, because I was surprised to find out how many kids didn't know it. I think we put it in policy, then it can't disappear so easily if we're not here in a year or two.
That's right. So I guess Sandy will get you to work on that for us. Thank you. Any further, Mrs. Kraft? Anything further?
No, I was just assuming we could vote on that.
Oh.
Well, we'll have to have a first reading, and then bring it for first reading, and then bring it back for approval.
So you're going to give me all that much more time to tell you why we need to do this, right? Because you can bet I will.
No, we don't need any more time, I don't think.
Okay, all right.
Mr.
Okay.
Satterley?
Nothing, but that's good timing since it's Constitution Day.
Yes.
I'll pass.
Mr. Pavey?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
All right. So then we'll move on into our strategic plan update.
Board, if you remember, last time I had the opportunity to present the strategic plan at a glance, and what I've done is basically, again, the layout stays pretty much the same. Starts with our vision and mission, and then our specific goals inside of each of our main areas. So student achievement and instruction goals are listed. Then what I've done also is I've listed key strategies that we're utilizing within that area. So it's not detailed, but it does provide people with a sense of, well, if these are your goals inside of student achievement and instruction, then how are you going to go about trying to meet those goals? So those are listed, but we've gone another step and we've put key metrics down, and these are the metrics that we want to track on a consistent basis to make sure that we are making progress towards meeting our goals. So you can see what we've listed as key metrics, and under this category there are a lot of them, but we feel that they're all important and easy to measure. So from graduation rate, you can see current data listed, and then you have some target data that's listed along with it. And it comes down now, I do not have for you tonight, but we will complete this, the percent of effective and highly effective teachers. That is part of the RISE model, or our teacher evaluation model. We do have a number that we will be able to provide to you related to that. But we also have to create a goal related to the percentage of diverse students relative to our percentage of diverse staff. So you can see diversity in terms of our students is 31.6%, and amongst our staff is only 7.7%. So board, I didn't create that target data yet because I really want to get some more input and feedback. I will tell you that since coming on board, we have hired more individuals from diverse backgrounds. We've made it a serious effort to do that, and we will continue to address it. But we also have to make it a realistic goal. And so I will be working with some people and bring that back to you and give you something that we feel is a reasonable goal. Obviously, with 31% diverse students, it'd be great to have 31% diverse faculty or staff. Just how reasonable that is something I need to study, and so I'd like to bring that back to you moving down the road. Finance goals are listed.
Can I make a comment about
Oh,
that?
absolutely.
On your key metrics, just a suggestion on that diverse students and diverse staff, you might want to also look at exit interviews, why staff might be leaving our school corporation, especially our diverse staff.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good metric to look at.
Thank you. We'll do that. Now moving down to the finance goals. Again, you see the goals, is the strategies, and the key metrics, and basically it's pretty focused on our general fund cash balance as well as our rainy day fund cash balance. You can see the current data and projected balances as of December. Those are both the general fund cash balance is objected balance as of December 31st, but our target data based upon our strategic plan was basically to come up with about a $5 million cash balance in each of those funds. So we have a ways to go there. Facilities and technology, you'll have the goals listed, you have the strategies, and then you would also have some goals there. If you could. We have some work to do here. We're still figuring out some of this data in terms of the numbers of computers to students. You know, as you know, that has drastically changed with the Chromebook initiative. So we're not one-to-one completely because our K1 and 2 students don't have their own computers yet, but now all of our lab computers are available to them. So we'll complete that data for you. We did add the 21st Century Skills Assessment. Every year, we evaluate our 5th and 8th graders on a technology skills assessment, and you can see that our 5th graders were at 60%, 8th graders at 53%. That was a marked improvement over the year prior. So we have some more information to complete in that area as well. Public relations and marketing, again, the goals and strategies are listed, and the key metrics. Our enrollment, as of last Friday, we're trying to, of course, there's some things that we're doing to make sure we clean up that data to submit it to the state. But it looks like that target data, if you include our preschool students, the 10,533 was official enrollment in our school corporation last school year. It includes preschool students. This year, we believe that we're going to be pretty close to that target data with our preschool numbers added in. We have 173 preschoolers, which is an increase over last year. And then you add that to about 10,450 students, K through 12, so that will take us up to close to that target data. So that's a very good sign for our school corporation that our enrollment will have increased to that extent. And that is due to the great commitment and effort of a lot of people over the past year to make that happen. The stakeholder satisfaction, I just need to analyze the survey data, which I would like to present to you also at a future meeting. But there is a question that relates to stakeholder satisfaction, and so we'll list that there. So we're not quite finished with the document, but we are closer to where we want to be, and I just thought I'd give you a quick update. The goal here would be to get this out on our website, get it out in the public so people could readily see all the things that we're trying to do to really benefit all of our students. We've accomplished a great deal in a short period of time, but I'm not so sure that all of our people, our constituents, fully understand everything that we've done. So hopefully this would be helpful. Also, it can help us be more accountable with those key metrics. I don't know if you had any other questions, comments?
Have we already had our ADM count, Dave?
The 13th was our final ADM, or official ADM count day. So we had taken a count on September 11th, 2 days prior to that, and I believe we had 10,458 students. I believe that was the number. So we are now at the process where we're cleaning up data. As you know, you have to look at kids and make sure that everyone's accounted for through their STN numbers. So as soon as we have that finalized for you, it probably will be right at the end of September, so maybe October 1st at that meeting. We might be able to provide the official numbers to you.
This summary looks good. I think it's important when people go to the website to be able to have something quick to look at. And while it's quick, that you've also included the important, metrics. So I think it looks great. I know you've got a little more work to do, but I think it looks really good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right. With that, we'll move on into, got a little presentation about Neola.
Great name, isn't it? Yeah. Well, as you all know, Greater Clark has over 900 school board approved policies. Some are required by state or federal law, and others are Greater Clark specific policies. We've been working on trying to update these policies for a number of years, and we've made some progress, I will say, but we're not finished yet. The Neola organization helps public school corporations organize and develop school-related policies. It has more than 350 policy templates and over 450 templates for administrative guidelines that direct how the policies are to be implemented. The biggest advantage of using the Neola service is the policy update services that they provide. And that means that twice a year at no additional cost to us over the initial expenditure to join the organization and begin the policy reviews, is that they twice a year will provide us with policy update services. And in between those two times, if there's anything that comes up as an emergency policy that's needed to be approved, they'll send us special services updates. And by example, the federal requirement to adopt a wellness policy or the changes to state law in our bullying policy, all of that information will come directly through them with sample policies and sample administrative guidelines. They stay on top of all the policy development that's needed for school corporations, and they provide us that data. We choose whether or not to implement or approve those policies, unless, of course, they're required by state or federal law. They also warrant all of the policy templates that they provide to us for legal form and adequacy, which is another good thing. We were contacted by a Neola representative about contracting with them for services, and one of the things that he presented to us was that there's going to be a pretty significant increase in the cost as of the first of the year. And he offered us the opportunity to contract in 2013 at 2013 rates, but not begin the process until January of 2014, so that we could build the cost into the 2014 budget. Dr. Dykle and I met with him, and Dr. Dykle has built into the 2014 budget funds to be able to fund the Neola process that will assist us with the policy development. And the cost is right about $22,000. That includes $83.50 for the bylaws and policy development. It's a one-time expense. $83.50 for the development of the administrative guidelines. That's a one-time expense, and $4,400 for the electronic publication of the policies and the documents. What's really cool about the electronic process is we can do keyword searches. Now, we scan all of our policies and we have them in place, but it's very cumbersome when we're going to look for a policy on bullying or a policy on wellness to have to root through all the stuff that we have in place. This way you can do keyword searches on these topics. It'll pull the policy up, it'll pull the guidelines up for you. There is an annual fee for the upkeep of the electronic process, but after the initial $2,100 expense, most all other costs are incurred in that expenditure, with the exception of the maintenance fee for the electronic updates. We know New Albany Floyd is using this process, and we also know that Clarksville is using this process. It's not a quick fix. It's long, and it takes time to put it together. But once it's done, the benefit of having the policy updates is probably worth the time and effort we put into it. We're excited. We're just presenting this to you as information only this evening. We will put it on the first meeting in October for your consideration and vote. We hope that you all will take a chance to look at the materials that are before you this evening and agree that this is something good for the corporation, a way to make sure that we have all our policies in place, and that hopefully we can eliminate some of those 900 that we don't need anymore that were put into place back in the 70s that still languish around in our policy manual. So, unless you have questions.
Board, if I could just add a couple of things. 2 previous districts that I was superintendent in, we had Neola. And I had come from a district prior to that did not have Neola as a service. And I think the great advantage is that this is not to take the place of Sandy Lewis. What this does, which Sandy I'm sure is happy to hear, what this does is
Really happy to hear that.
Did that relieve your but sometimes that's what people think. Sometimes people think that because you have this service that perhaps, you can afford not to have a general counsel on board, and I want you to know that's not true. But what this does do is, Sandy does a great job, but what it does is there are people that belong to this organization that are monitoring the latest legislation and law, not only state but federal. And whenever it becomes available, their attorneys, they put the policies together. So they're always keeping you current, and twice a year you're getting these updates. And so your policies, you can always count on your policies being up to date and current. And it can be very vital because there will be situations that may occur in any district at any point in time that if your policy was not in place or if it wasn't updated, it can put your district at risk. And so to me, what this does is it provides a tool for Sandy to be able to utilize to assure that our policies are as current and up to date as possible. It doesn't take the place of her because you know that it's also important that other policies like tonight, there was a suggestion for another policy that's specific to our district. Well, Sandy needs to go to work and develop those things, or we have to tweak current existing policy. So to me, it's a tool for Sandy that is going to be good not only for her, but more importantly to help our entire district stay current in terms of policy and procedure.
And board, normally when we have our Indiana School Board conferences and they have, the vendors, Neola is usually there with a booth, so if you have questions or you want to go get, a little more information or some questions asked, this next week will be a great opportunity. So, you said $21,000, Sandy, that's the upfront cost, then
21.
Do you have an idea of what the annual, to continue it?
I think it's around that $4,400 technology fee.
Okay.
So once you get through the initial investment, it's really reasonable.
Well, I lived through the Neola process in New Albany, Flint County Schools, and although it's a wonderful document at the end, you're absolutely right, Ms. Lewis. It is a long process, and I would probably consider it's much like a root canal each day.
Oh, great.
It's very painful. Especially if you do the whole committee structure that they suggest, where you look at every single word. And I'm busy. I'm busy.
You're busy. I'm busy. Okay. Well, we'll bring it back for your consideration and vote at the next meeting. Thank you all very much.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Sandy.
Sandy. Okay, we've got some fun monitoring.
And Teresa, I agree with you. I was the lead at the last school district on Neola, and it was like a root canal.
Okay. Every day, root canal.
Okay. Dr. Mellon, we have to put Sandy's contract or salary back in the 14 budget now.
Now that I've made a commitment, yeah,
I had it out already. I mean. Looking at the 14 budget, in August we had 3 pays. That's why it was $7,196,000 on the expenditure. We're doing okay yet. I just want to keep reminding you, we're looking at a positive cash balance at the end of this year of almost $600,000. But remember, we had 4 payments from the impact aid of $700,000, which we should have only had 1, but they paid us for the prior 3 years that they never paid us. So it's kind of inflated because of that. We also increased our steps from a half step to a full step for everybody in the corporation because of this money. So that also helps too. So we're looking at a projected almost $600,000 by the end of the year. Next year, I want to be in the black and say it's not because of the impact aid money.
Yeah.
Debt service, there's really nothing going there in August, or the pension debt. Capital projects, we're now showing a projected $976,000 positive number, and that's mainly because we took a couple projects off that we thought we were going to do during the summer that we didn't do during the summer, a couple roof projects. So now we're looking at a cash balance of just under $1 million is what we're projecting. So that's good news there. In transportation operating, the next two I'm worried about. We're projecting $171,000, almost $172,000 deficit in operating fund for transportation. What concerns me a lot is the tax caps of $861,000. If that comes to fruition, that'll be devastating to us. We're trying to do everything we can to control costs as much as possible. We're getting federal money for transporting special ed students, and that money that we get automatically goes into the transportation fund. So it's not a whole heck of a lot, but so far it's about $42,000 that we've collected from the federal government for transportation. So that does help the budget. Bus replacement, tax cap is killing us there, $106,000. We're going to be about $176,000 in the red at the end of the year. We're going to have to really look at our equipment and see if we're going to lease equipment through a bond issue, like a small Hoosier equipment loan process bond for several buses, just because our buses are starting to exceed the 12-year limit, and I'm starting to worry about some of those. Rainy day fund, we're sitting good, $3.5 million. Haven't touched it. I won't touch that until the end of the year, I promise. You've already given me permission to wipe out the full amount, which we won't do. Right now, we're only looking at bus replacement and bus operating fund, and that's kind of where we're at. Do you have any questions? We're doing good, except in those two funds.
Doctor, I would say if we got buses that exceed or getting to that 12-year limit, we shouldn't worry about them. We must replace them. I mean, I think it gets in that point where it's time to. It's a no-brainer.
Well, state law says once they go over 12 years, we have to do 2 inspections, which we are getting our 2 inspections. We have a good mechanic crew that is making sure they're updated. We had a meeting with the high school on Big Red 1. Big Red 1, we're going to have to bury, have a funeral here for that pretty soon. It's, you know, if you watch Duck Dynasty like I do, we can take it somewhere and blow it up. But
not creepy.
He's on a roll tonight, isn't he?
But we will need.
He's not the PR person.
I have to get that in there.
Yeah.
But we will have to look at getting another coach bus in the very near future for Jeff High, probably one for Charlestown High too. So that could be another added expense that we may want to put into the bond issue if we continue with that. So I understand, Tony, where you're coming from. But as long as they're not rusted out, see, that's part of the problem with Big Red 1. It's getting rusted, it's old, it's hard to find the parts, it breaks down, we're spending a lot of money fixing it. It's just not worth it anymore, and we have Big Red 2 sitting there. A lot of people didn't want to use it because you need to have air brake certification, and a lot of our people didn't have it. Now we're getting more and more people that have the air brake certification, so we are getting a pool of drivers that can drive the bus, but we still need more transit buses.
You know, but Board, as Tom and I have talked about this and what's happening at the state level, you know, just with what's going on now with the tax caps,
Say that fast.
thank you, but also the protected tax issue in which now you cannot take funds out of debt service or pension debt. You know, there's a big impact. It just magnifies the impact on transportation and bus replacement as well as capital projects. So the reality is, unless we come up with some alternative funding method, you know, there's no money there to buy replacement buses. And when we have as many buses as we have, eventually it is going to become an issue. And so we do have to figure out, we met with our legislators here recently, and we shared that concern with our legislators. They need to go back. The tax caps are constitutional now, so we can't change that. But this protected tax issue, you know, all of us said, you need to let us spread the impact of the tax caps over all 5 funds still, and not just limit it to the 3. And we showed them why, because of the impact on transportation and bus replacement. So I just want you to know that we've sent that message to our legislators, and you know, we need to continue to have a unified approach to do that. It's a big issue.
And the other thing is they froze, kind of froze our levy. They restricted it, I should say. In the past, we were able to float the levy as far as what we needed to buy buses. When you were under a 10-year bus replacement plan, you were supposed to replace 1/10 of your fleet every year. Well, if you have 100 buses, you're not going to replace 10 buses every year, because one year you might have bought 15 buses, so that year you're going to replace 15 10 years down the road. So it's going to go up and down, and your tax levy would go up and down also. Then the legislature kind of restricted it, and now they tell us how many buses we could buy. And like for us, it was like 3.4 buses. Okay, where do I get a 0.4 bus? You know, is that without the wheels or the motor or what? And that's how stupid it's getting. You know, capital projects has a cap. We can't exceed 0.4167 cents per tax rate. There is no tax rate in general fund, which is nice, but now in bus replacement fund, it's now being restricted by the state. And you know, between the restriction and the tax caps, it's really hurting our school district. So we're going to have to go and borrow the money through a loan to buy additional buses, which then will come out of debt service, which will affect our tax caps, which then means we're going to end up losing more money, especially if our assessed valuation continues to decline. It's a vicious circle.
Until we convince people that it isn't bad to pay taxes, I do not know where this came from. Why people think all this is free. I don't like to pay taxes. I don't want to be taxed for that. Then what service do you not want? A bus, a school, a policeman, a fireman, a street, a garbage? What do you want? If you want all this, who's going to pay for this? When have we gotten there? And how in the world do we ever get there? I'm sorry. I mean, I'm sorry. I've never said, and I'm old, and I don't have kids in school anymore, and I'm happy as heck to pay for my kids, for other kids, because I owe that. Why do we not have that opinion that we owe? That's how we stay as good as we are. I'm just sorry. I'm sorry for you. I mean, it's very, very difficult. And the state police will not give you, they're not going to give you any slack on it. When they come in and they find something, a seat loose or something, you're going to get doxxed, and it'll be a mess.
And by rights they should. I mean, because the buses should be safe.
Absolutely. Yes. Or no bus at all. It's like, I'm sorry, people. I guess we're not doing buses now. I mean, that's terrible. That's the reality, and that's terrible.
Well, and even to get rid of busing, you have to do a resolution 3 years in advance.
Right, right.
So if you're really hurting in transportation operating, how could you get rid of it next year if you didn't do the resolution?
It's just bad. It's the whole concept. People, I don't know where that came from, where that selfishness came from, but it's hurting everyone. It's hurting every town. It's hurting every organization that's supported. It's hurting everywhere, and it's not good. I'm done now. Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
All right. Student achievement.
Well, Board, sort of caught between a rock and a hard place, because at one point the state told us that ISTEP results were embargoed until September 17th. So the thought was we'd be able to provide you a full report on ISTEP tonight. Yesterday we were informed that the results are embargoed until noon tomorrow. Yet, if you'll go online on the DOE site, somehow, some way, they released the ISTEP results this evening. So, what I'll tell you is I'd like to share some information with you. I'm probably at risk of doing so. I'm not sure to what extent, but I'd like to share some information with you tonight, but give you a more detailed report in the future related to our ISTEP scores. Just simply, we had across our district 77% of our students passed English language arts. We had a reduction of passage of 0.7 from last year. So our passage rate was down 0.7 from last year in language arts. In math, we had 80% of our students pass math. It was a 0.3 increase from last year. Now, a couple of things. The state average, I mentioned we were at 76.9% in language arts. The state average was 78.7%. So we're 1.8% below the state average, which to me we want to get to and exceed. In math, we were at 79.6%. The state is at 82.2%, so we are 2.6% away in math. So we're catching up to the state, but we're still not where we want to be. What was interesting is you looked at other districts, and I won't give you the details right now other than to say that in language arts, every district in our area, their passage rate decreased this year from last year in language arts. And so we saw this trend in our school system, and we wondered, what was happening. We don't know. Remember, the state did their validity test, and they came out, it was inconclusive. They could not definitively state that the breakdown in testing had an impact on. I still believe that it had to have some impact on some of our students. But here's what I do know that you need to know. Last summer when I came in here, the state notified us that we had identified too many students to take the IMAST exam. Now that's not atypical. There are a lot of school systems around the state. There's a formula that says as a school system you can allow X number of kids to take the IMAST exam. Now that's an alternative exam for students with special needs. Well, you're between a rock and a hard place with IMAST because the feeling is we care about our kids and we want them to take the most appropriate exam for them. And so a decision was made prior to my arrival, but I would have made a similar one, I'm sure, is that let's have more students take the IMAST exam because we think that's what's appropriate for them. But it will hurt us in terms of our participation numbers, perhaps. There's always a system of checks and balances. Well, last year the state notified us that we had over-identified and we needed to make some changes. So we went to work on that, and Mrs. Schneff just gave me a bit of a report. We had 105 special needs students who took the IMAST exam in 2012. In 2013, they took ISTEP. So 105 students who took the IMAST alternative exam that does not count against you in terms of ISTEP. 105 took ISTEP this year. Now what we'll bring back to the table is of those 105 students who took IMAST, how many of them passed ISTEP in 13? My feeling would be that we probably struggled with that number, and we knew that we would. That we identified the highest performing special needs students to take ISTEP. But we knew by doing that, to meet the state's requirement of over-identification, we knew that it would impact our passage rate. I'll have that specific number for you when we finish that analysis. So I just wanted to give you, I guess, a bit of an overview of where we are with ISTEP And I thought it was interesting that in English language arts, every district in this area had a decrease in their passage in language arts. And what that entails, I don't know yet, but we'll continue the analysis. 77% of our students passing language arts and 80% of our kids, that's rounding up, 80% passing math. So we're not totally disappointed. I think especially if you start to think about the IMAST impact, but certainly we're hoping to continue to improve.
Thank you, Dr. Mallon. Travis is going to give us an update on our college and career readiness.
Thank you, Board. I'll have Renee call. Just real quickly, Renee, you can keep it on that first one. I want to just kind of share with you real quick kind of the purpose for tonight. The first thing that we're going to do is talk about our career pathways, and that's something that we've been working on for the last couple of weeks. Very excited to share with the Board the 4 career pathways. And then you're going to kind of hear some of the information you've already heard, kind of give you an update, want to keep you informed, and share some data tonight. It's exciting, good data from all of our secondary schools. We have a special presentation tonight with Jeffersonville High School and some of the work that they've been doing with their AP classes. But really, it's been just a huge effort with all secondary schools. But you're familiar with the grant that Jeff High has been a part of, and we've got a special presentation for that tonight. So having said that, the very first thing that we want to talk about are the career pathways. We have worked with the administrators, the counselors, our career class teachers, and we have identified, what we did was we took the state's career pathways, there are 16 of them, and we lumped them into what we tried to narrow that down to 4 major pathways. And then once we did that, we took the top 50 hot jobs, and we said, okay, if we look at these top 50 hot jobs, do they fit in to these career pathways? And we did that as an exercise with our administrators, our counselors, and our teachers. They will start doing that with our kids, because one of the things that we're going to do is make sure that by the end of the year, as we start what we call program planning, or when kids start selecting classes for next year, they will declare, this is the pathway that I want to choose. And as they declare that pathway, if the first one is business information technology and logistics, and that's the pathway I want to follow, then here would be the classes that I would want to take, especially when it comes to electives, that would help me be successful down the road in that pathway in college or in a career. So we'll start to do that with our kids at the end of this year, and then we'll start working with our teachers as well. And they will become part of an advisory group where they will work together. It might be English and social studies and science teachers that say, we want to be part of this business information technology and logistics advisory group. And they will work together, and they'll talk about what is it that we can do in our classes that make our classes relevant. If I'm a social studies teacher, what can I do if I'm doing the Industrial Revolution that it might have to do with information technology or business or logistics? And how can I tie that so that there's relevancy for those kids that are spending time in my class? Once we do that with those teachers in those advisory settings, where it's all of it's the English, the math, the social studies, those people will then go back and they'll meet as a group. So all of our social studies teachers will meet, and all of the English teachers will meet, and all the science teachers will meet, and they will share those 4 pathways. And as teachers, as they continue to move forward, they will share different examples related to the 4 pathways to increase the relevancy as they're teaching the students on a day-to-day basis. So if I'm a kid I picked the human service, education, and law pathway, the teacher may be on the business, IT, and logistics pathway, but based on the conversation they've had with other teachers in that similar discipline, they'll have ideas, okay, what can I do to make my class relevant to all 4 of those pathways so that kids can make that real-life connection that they can carry as they go on out to college or on out into their careers. So we're really excited about these pathways. Go ahead.
So what does that do with the testing? I mean, that's a wonderful idea.
Mm-hmm.
But then what happens when they are tested on specific things they have to know? State testing.
Sure. One of the things that is critical to this is relevancy.
To the test.
Relevancy, exactly. What we're trying to do is we're trying to tie all these concepts to real-life applications.
Yes, and that's smart.
And so to me, we want these kids to make sure that when we're talking about this academic concept, that our teachers can connect that to say, this is why this concept is important. It's not just a standard. It's something that ties to a potential future career path. So we hope it increases
Yeah, so
relevancy.
what it will do is take that standard and then
Right.
break it down into these
Okay.
4 pathways.
Thank
So
you.
now that will have some relevancy. Hopefully it'll
Yeah.
make sense instead of just being isolated. It's a
Got it.
standard I need to know. Does that make
Wonderful
sense?
idea,
So
yeah.
not get away from those standards by any means, but make it more relevant. And I believe it'll even make it more rigorous,
Yeah.
which
Okay.
should help that as well. So we've got, I'm sorry, one more time, Renee, that was my fault. I was quick on the draw and I told you to move and I wasn't ready yet. So I just wanted to highlight that we did pick those 4 pathways, career pathways. We've got business, IT and the logistics, the healthcare and related sciences, the human services, education and law. And we really worked on that one and added the law. And it may not seem like a big deal, but we're pretty proud that we threw law in there because kids need to know that that's important, and that has a lot of different facets, whether it be an attorney or law enforcement. But we really worked on that one. I'm pretty proud that we added that one. And then the engineering, manufacturing, technology, and the skilled trades. Okay, thanks, Renee. Sorry about that. I've shared with you guys the timeline for 13 and 14 before. You know that we have the career classes up and running in 6th and 9th grade. We have now established the career pathways. Dr. Mellon and myself are working with Aaron and Daniel. We're creating a video on the career pathways. We're going to do that this week. And Aaron has promised me it's going to be finished before Daniel gets married next week and goes on his honeymoon. So we're looking forward to rolling that out. We do have Project Lead the Way up and running. We're going to share a little bit of the information about that tonight. Dual credit, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised when we share the dual credit numbers, the AP numbers as part of the special presentation. We've got JAG up and running at Jeffersonville High School. The counselors are working hard to implement this. The ACT is next. All of our secondary principals were at the AC College and Career Readiness Conference today as we continue to move this forward. And then in working with Dr. Mellon, we're creating the District Business and Community Council, which will meet in the middle of October. 14 and 15, that timeline, again, I've kind of shared that with you before. Those are the advisories that we've talked about, the departments, that's what I just talked about. And really, the movement for next will be those internships and establishing a career center at the high schools and a career center director. And I've shared that with you before, but I just wanted to kind of keep that in front of you. Go ahead, Renee. The next one, these are the AP courses that we're offering. We've got a presentation that's next, so I'm going to let Jeffersonville High School share their numbers. Charlestown High School has the 7, New Washington with the 3, and we'll talk more about some of the other things. But at this time, I want to bring Mrs. Straight, Julie Straight, the principal at Jeffersonville High School, to come up and kind of introduce a couple of people and guests. So, thanks.
So we'll go through a few
What's going?
Yeah. We have 22 AP courses, 21 teachers teaching those AP courses. Part of adding to our repertoire and increasing our student number in AP and our exciting results was a grant that Ginger Whitus wrote, and it is the National Math Science Initiative. We are in the second year of the initiative. The first year was kind of data gathering, setting data points, benchmarks, setting goals, very aggressive goals of increasing the number of students in courses, increasing our courses, and then increasing the percentage of students earning 3s, 4s, or 5s, which translate into college credit when they go. So we're in the second year, which means we're in the payoff year. And I think with that, I will introduce Karen Morris. She is the director of Advanced Placement Training Initiative Program of Indiana. She coordinates the grant with us, works closely with the DOE, and she is here for a presentation.
I have the joyful job. I get to present the wonderful results of the 9 schools right now. We'll have ultimately 30 schools involved in this program, and Greater Clark County School Board members, thank you for allowing me to come today, Superintendent Mellon. I am so happy to present the results from Jeffersonville High School's first year in the program. So a year kind of started in July of 2012, and we finished in August of 2013, so it's more than a year. But we had to crunch all that data. I know about that data crunching process, going through all those student results, but I am just thrilled to tell you about what happened. We are a STEM initiative, so our focus is in math, science, and English as the literacy part of science and mathematics, because those engineers have to be able to communicate science and math in some way, right? So we limit our AP training and incentive program to those courses that are math, science, and English oriented. We have simply two goals. I love simplification. It makes my job so much easier. So everything we do are surrounding these two goals. One is to increase the number of students taking the advanced placement science, math, and English courses at your school. I have the least influence on that. I mean, I live in South Bend. I don't live here in Jeffersonville. So we ask the administrators and the teachers involved in the program to do that job for us. So get those kids into the classes using the data sources that they have, but also knowing the kids in the high school who is capable of taking AP, math, science, and English. And then we do strategies to increase the number of AP qualifying scores, which again are those scores that Principal Straight said of 3, 4, 5. And that is compared to the year that we asked you to enter the program, where Ms. Lightis actually submitted the data for the baseline year, which was 2011. That goal is influenced by more time on task with kids, more teacher training. In fact, your teachers had 60 hours or more of professional development over last year, plus support from content directors and other places that we can find them help, technical training and an equipment line item in the budget to buy equipment for teaching AP. So this is what happened. Again, the joyful thing I get to talk about. First of all, your enrollment increases. We always, again, compared to the baseline year, and I'm sorry that top bar is so dark. That's this year's data. And we took a look at your enrollment growth from the baseline year, which is the bottom bar, to the first full-fledged year of the program, which was for Jeffersonville High School, 17% increase in number of students taking advanced placement math, science, and English only courses. Our average growth for our entire cohort of schools was about 30.5%. So you did pretty well in getting the kids to take the classes. But after we did the actual activities of the grant, this is what we found out in terms of increasing qualifying scores for Jeffersonville. So in 2011, baseline year, you had about 117 qualifying scores in math, science, and English only. Increased modestly by 2012, but in this last year, 178 qualifying scores in math, science, and English. That is a growth of 24%. Congratulations. I think that is your students are wonderful, and your teachers worked very hard to get those scores, and I think it really showed paid off for Jeffersonville students. So what does this mean? We are a business model. It is an incentive program. So we provided for those students who got qualifying scores on their AP exam, they earned $100 per qualifying score. 178 students and 17,000 reference. And our teachers also got $100 for each student who earned a qualifying score. Plus, we wanted them to we knew they were going to work hard, but we wanted them to stretch. So we set goals for them to reach scores, and 4 of those students reached one of their goals and met it. And they earned $21,800 per score, $39,600 back to Jeffersonville teachers and students. This is great. So what does this mean? We like to take a look at this in terms of what is the benchmarks? Well, we compare how you rank in the state. I'm comparing to last year's data because I think that's actually easier, more accessible for me to get to. So, when we take a look at the math, science, and English qualifying scores in 2012, Jeffersonville High School ranked at about 31st in the state. But after this year, and this is just math, science, and English, they ranked at 23rd. When we talk just about your minority students in math, science, and English, you ranked at 37th. But this year, you ranked 7th. 350, approximately 348, give AP tests in math, science, and English. You were wow. You did wonderful. You really grew the program. And you really were successful. You were good too. When we talk just about math and Even more impressive, your minority students in just math and science in 2012 ranked at 50th, but surprisingly the same ranking in 2015 and 17, just in math and science. So now we have a pool of students who can compare well to their peers and move into the workforce having critical strengths becoming college and career ready. Another demographic that the National Math and Science and the college were experiencing, and me, as I'm actually a science educator by training, I went to Purdue and I got my degree in chemistry education, and I taught the University of Notre Dame first-year chemistry my entire career. So I'm very interested in young women in science. And in 2012, you were at 38 in the math and science qualifying scores, and you went up a little at 35th. So we have a little bit to work with, but you do have a lot of young women who do take AP courses, and it's a wonderful thing. So congratulations. And on behalf of AP Tippin, I would like to present this ceremonial check to the school board and Principal Street for the $39,500
Wow.
and thank you again for your participation, your students, your teachers in particular who work so hard at your job.
And actually, yeah, the photo up, Alan Shevchenko is our AP Physics teacher. He had the #1 percent pass rate, 89% pass rate, and he's here tonight too. And I want him in the photo op.
Great teaching going on there.
Thanks, Karen, for making that.
Thank you. Yep, great work. So.
Sure. So, just real quickly, the effort and the commitment, it just doesn't happen. This has taken several years to get to this point and to get to this level, and to reach those goals are outstanding. That's why you strive. You know, you take chances, you try to be progressive, and you strive to meet those goals. And all that hard work and all that effort is paid off, and this was a chance for us to celebrate that this evening. So we're really proud of our teachers at Jeff High, as well as our administrative team at Jeff High, because this just doesn't happen. It takes great team effort, and it's been happening for several years now. So we hope that we'll only continue to grow and enhance over time, but the foundation you've established is outstanding. So thank you for everything you've done.
Well, we'll just keep on going because it doesn't stop just with the AP. One of the initiatives that we started this year with all of our high schools is the dual credit, and that's through our partnership with Ivy Tech. And we're 6 weeks into school and have those numbers and wanted to share that with the board. So not only are kids earning credit through the AP where they score a 3, 4, or 5, but they can also take the Ivy Tech courses from our instructors. So you'll see at Jefferson High School we have 35 Ivy Tech courses. And we really do have 700 students. We didn't round that. We actually ran the report, and it just came out at 700 students who are going to be able to get Ivy Tech credit that they will be able to use as they further their career. At Charlestown High School, we've got 26 courses with 298 students, and in New Washington, 7 with 61 students. So you can see, as we're starting to continue to move down that road with college and career readiness, the rigor and that kids that are successful. One of the things, and we've talked about it here, but we talked about it at ACT, is that kids can start college and not take those remedial courses. And that's why we've got to make things relevant and increase the rigor so that they're not taking remedial courses when they start colleges. You know that we've started Project Lead the Way, and we have the numbers in for Project Lead the Way. And I think Nick and Ginger, you guys have been part of that as well. And so at Jeffersonville High School, we've got 9 courses and 249 students. At Charlestown, the 4 courses with 150, and at New Washington, 2 courses with 126. So you can see how many different students we're starting to reach with different options. And then before you go further, Renee, you know we also have it in our middle schools as well, and we'll talk a little bit about that. wanted to show you a little bit Project Lead the Way. These are the principles of biomedical science, and I think, was this your class, Mr. Weiss? And I think this was a crime scene, kind of a CSI feel where, with the crime scene. Yeah, okay.
That's you on the floor there, Nick?
That is not Nick on the floor. Go ahead, Renee. You'll see that's not Nick on the floor, but you can see that Nick actually created the crime scene, and then the students used that to do. I think you took. Yeah, you wanted.
Yes, it's a practical application of biology. So they take a crime scene and they take all the aspects of the individual called Garcia and do that away. There are different aspects of the scene that we identify, and then we run through testing to figure out what's in our blood, to figure out we do DNA testing, we take other things that are found at the site, such as the ring at the site. They found out a lot about Anna Garcia. They take it initially from the evidence, and then we shift into her medical condition. And that's why they call it biomedical. We'll address sickle cell anemia, we'll address high blood pressure, we'll do heart disease, and we'll do all those things with the equipment, thankfully, that we can purchase for it. I don't know if the microscope lab is
Next. Go ahead.
Wonderful equipment that our kids have really never been exposed to. We're doing stuff that I did in college. We're doing it in high school classes. So they're excited. It's a great experience, and they're really learning how to.
So student engagement's up a little bit?
I think so.
They are engaged.
We got their attention.
Yeah.
There's a lab around this.
Go back.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So it's truly practical application. And we do the career path is about once every month, every couple of weeks, they have to identify a new career that could be a possibility for them as an aspect of being a technician in a lab versus possibly someone else like a pathologist or a clinical pathologist. All the different careers that they're experiencing as they're building all that.
Thanks, Nick. And you can see there with the microscopes and the Chromebooks, the engagement, certainly the rigor that Nick talked about. So we've got that. You know about the freshman career classes. Those are all up and running in all the high schools in ninth grade. Things are going well there. The JAG, we do have 35 students. Our target was 30 to 40, so we have 35 students, and we've got some good work going on there as well. And then the middle school, we've got the sixth grade career class. We're offering pre-algebra for the first time in sixth grade. The seventh grade, we've got Project Lead the Way for all of our students, and then offering algebra at our middle schools. And then the eighth grade, Project Lead the Way is a gateway to technology. So wanted to update the board, really wanted to talk about the career pathways because we're very excited to have those out. Wanted to share some good news with you tonight and give you the numbers. A lot of people working hard on this. There's still a lot of work that we need to do. We were sitting with the principals today, and we were talking, there's just so much out there when it comes to college and career readiness, and how do you make it to where you can manage it, and that's part of what our next task will be and as we move forward. So with that, I'll be more than happy to take any questions, but we did want to share some good news.
It's always great to hear good news. And student achievement's what we're all here for. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
One thing, board, that the dual credit courses, those are courses facilitated by Ivy Tech, but accepted at any Indiana college or university. And if you start putting the number of courses with the number of credits, and these are not costing our students or families anything. So there's a real value there that maybe people don't understand. And so between the AP program, the dual credit, and at times you have AP courses that are offered for dual credit. So it's a real partnership there that we're providing these things. And think about 700 students at Jeff High. That's 1/3 of the student population in a dual credit course. You have almost 300 students at Charlestown High School. That's almost 50% of the Charlestown High School population in a dual credit course. I mean, we are not only trying very hard to help kids who are struggling in our school system to achieve, but we're also providing some great programs for other students who are looking to enhance themselves too. So just really proud. I appreciate Mr. Hare for all of his efforts in facilitating, our principals from all of our secondary schools as well. we're off to a good start.
If you would ask the college students that are in college now that have been at Jeff High School, that have taken these classes, even if they didn't pass all of the classes to get credit, their years are so much easier. Because they'll make remarks like, oh, I did that in high school. Oh, well, we can, and other kids that are there from other schools aren't saying that. So they're having easier time because of that. And that's what we're here to do. Yeah.
Well, we're at the part of the board meeting where we can have board comments. So, Mr. Hall, do you have anything for this evening?
Yeah, I just wanted to say congratulations to Michael Pritchard. A little history of Michael as a high school player. He didn't start off as a very talented young man, but he worked harder than anybody at Charlestown High School, became the starting center on a sectional championship basketball team. And I'm sure as a basketball coach, no one around here will outwork him. So congratulations and good luck, Mike.
I'll take a hard worker over natural talent any day. So welcome to the team. Teresa?
Well, I just wanted to add to the Jeff High presentation. I'm just simply blown away and very excited for you guys, and want to come visit soon and see some of those things going on in the classes. Thank you.
Jerry?
What Teresa's saying, I'm just so happy that we're able to offer all our students the opportunities that you all are giving them. It's just wonderful that the opportunities that so many other kids, as Nancy's talking about, don't get, and that you're giving them. So thank you.
Nancy?
I'd just like the teacher to stand up that had the highest performing students in this Jeff High School. One more time so I can clap. One more time.
Kevin?
Oh, I just want to congratulate you as well, and I've already sent a text to Travis and Ben Ledbetter. I want to know what New Washington can do. Catch up a little bit, so that's true. Thank you.
Mark?
Nick, I got to say, of all the things I expected to see, it wasn't a crime scene tonight. So, so congratulations. Some great work going on here at JHS, and want to congratulate that whole group out there. So keep up the good work.
And thank you for everything you do on a daily basis to prepare our kids for real life. And also, just on behalf of the board, I want to point out that we have a card and a small gift for Dr. Mellon because today is his birthday.
Yeah.
And he's sharing it with us tonight at a board meeting.
I couldn't think of a better, well, no, I could, but thank you very much. That's very nice.
So, small gift, but certainly deserving, and we hope that you use it for something you'll enjoy. And
thank you. Thank you very much. Very thoughtful. Appreciate it.
And we will be spending some time together in Indianapolis next week at an Indiana School Board conference. So I'm looking forward to that. And turn it over to you, Dr. Mellon.
That's it. Believe it or not, board. I think a lot of great things tonight, and very proud of everything that our students and staff are doing for our kids. And thank you for your support of everything we're doing, because it takes all of us. And so thank you so much.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Teresa. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Satterley. Any last-minute questions, discussion? All in favor? Good night. Thank you.
Hey, Christina. Sign of this talk.